The Four Noble Truths, Part 1. These are the Four Noble Truths according to Buddhism. Number 1, the Noble Truth of Suffering. Number 2, the Noble Truth of the Origin of Suffering. Number 3, the Noble Truth of the Extinction of Suffering. And number 4, the Noble Truth of the Path that leads to the extinction of suffering. Just by reading these Four Noble Truths, it seems to my own understanding that it revolves around suffering, the origin of suffering, the extinction of suffering, and the path of ending suffering. You might ask yourself, what now is the first noble truth of suffering? According to the book I'm reading called a Buddhist Bible, all these topics I'm about to mention revolves around the first noble truth of suffering. Birth is suffering, decay is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, limitation, pain, grief, and despair are suffering. Not to get what one desires is suffering. In short, the five aggregates of existence are suffering. If you're wondering what the five aggregates of existence are, of suffering, there are bodily form, number 2, feeling, number 3, perception, number 4, mental formations, and number 5, consciousness. As I'm reading this book, I'm realizing that there's levels within levels of each of these topics. For example, do you know what bodily form is? It's okay if you don't. I too didn't know this once upon a time. But there are 4 primary elements that represent bodily form. The solid element is anything physical like the body. The fluid element is anything that is liquid like water. The heating element is anything that radiates energy like the heat that comes out of our body. And the vibrating element is, according how I understand this, is like in breathing, out breathing, or the upward going or the downward going winds. In each of these 4 elements of the bodily form, one should understand according to reality and true wisdom. This does not belong to me. This is not my ego. The next aggregates of existence that is mentioned is consciousness. There are 6 parts of consciousness as far as I can see, read, and understand. Number 1, consciousness that depends on the eyes is also known as the eye consciousness. Number 2, consciousness that depends on the ear is also known as the ear consciousness. Number 3, consciousness that depends on the olfactory organ, which is odors, is also known as the olfactory consciousness. Consciousness that depends on the tongue is also known as the tongue consciousness. Consciousness that depends on the body or bodily contact is also known as the body consciousness. Consciousness that depends on the mind is also known as the mind consciousness. So the 6 parts of consciousness are the eyes, ears, olfactory organ, the tongue, the body or body contact, and the last one is the mind. So again, one should understand according to reality and true wisdom, this does not belong to me. This is not my ego. This is all the information I was able to gather while reading a Buddhist Bible on the part of the first noble truth of suffering. I will do the second noble truth of the origin of suffering when I have time. I might miss some information, but so far with what I've read and wrote down to me, it seems like there's a little bit of truth in Buddhism. I'll be honest, I agree and disagree with some parts and beliefs, but overall there's still a lot of knowledge, wisdom, and truth in Buddhism. Eat the fruit, spit the bones out. As a self-proclaimed guru, I agree with the knowledge it provides for the first noble truth, and I hope I can agree with the next 3 noble truths. Peace.